My name is Olivia Merrion, and we are watching Quilt Fever. I was just looking for the next thing to do a film on, and I was daydreaming one day kind of and had come across, it was like a story about a quilter, and then I just started thinking a lot about quilting.
I never thought I would even look at a quilt, but I live in a quilt city.
It is AQS Quilt Week. We found busloads of people at Paducah's riverfront area yesterday. Quilt Week officially begins this morning.
I started looking into these women and then really just hearing all their passion on message boards. Like I was in all these like quilter blogs. But I kind of became like a bit of like a quilt groupie, you know, like I was like, these people like really love this. I don't love quilting as much as they do, but I definitely love quilters.
Everybody's gonna have a good time? Yeah. Good, I love it.
The process of the film was going in somewhere where we did not know what we were going to get. I wanted the film to feel like my experience going through a quilt festival.
You're standing where millions of quilters from all over the world have come to celebrate the amazing art of quilting.
You know, I don't think I'm alone in taking enjoyment out of, like, I love watching people love. Going in the beginning, you sort of were like, what? I can't believe this. And then by the end of the film, you're like, oh my God, should I be quilting? And I think that that's what I really wanted people to feel because it was how I felt by the end. The concept was to really strongly field produce this one. So like meet people and yada yada. With the exception of these women, we were in contact with the American Quilter Society who puts on the show. And I was like, I want somebody who's got a quilt in this year's show. Do you know of anybody? And I called Bobby. Can you just imagine getting this call? Like, I was like, hi, I'm a filmmaker. I'm doing a film about quilters. Would you be interested in being interviewed in like an hour? So we went over to their house and they were just kind of looking at us like, what are you guys doing here? But we're really into it, and you know, we're really excited to talk about their quilts.
This is my mess. There's one of my works, the horses up there. This here, I was sick, and my friends, my quilting friends, helped me and prayed for me. So that's what the geese represents. Kirby.
I think there is some truth that women of this age tend to not be like the focus of a lot of films, and especially not like this. So I think there's some pride in that. I have gotten some feedback that I should have included more younger quilters, which, yeah, I think I can say it here officially that quilting is not a monolith. There are definitely young quilters, there are male quilters, but this is who was at, you know, the quilt show that I went to.
And we won second place.
They were our first interview, so in the film, they come first. And I had actually really cut them down because they were sort of removed from the show in my head. Like I didn't have them at the space or any of the things. And then Nico, who edited the film with me, put them back in. And it works because you understand more about quilters from them. I knew that the music was going to be almost like another character in the film.
Collect rulers.
I wanted a sound that still had a commentary with it, and I think that the synth sounds added a certain level of almost like jarringness, but then it made you pay more attention to it and could guide you through the film.
To get the quilt fever.
They look like oil paintings, some of them. They have to like, oh my gosh, that's a
So
quilt.
these women actually interrupted an interview I was having. I was interviewing the guy that owns the fabric store, and they like chimed in on something while I was interviewing him. And then I was like, do you guys want to be interviewed? And they were like, no. And then I was like, are you sure?
One nice thing about quilters, they're lovely people until there's only 2 yards left on the bolts and you both want some.
It was a situation, it was so packed in there that John Picklap, who filmed it, he had the headphones on and I could just see him cracking up. And I was like, oh man, I don't even know what we're getting.
148.72.
No matter what that number says, we always say, that's not bad.
These women are still, it cracks me up like every few times I watch this.
I didn't know her from Adam 5 years ago.
Until I opened a quilt shop.
And I went in by accident, and the rest
here we
is
are.
history.
Now we know next time to get it when we first see it.
Well, we know that. We should have.
It'll be the next generation.
The bus scene was something I knew that I wanted because when you go there, the streets are like filled with buses. But I have to give credit to the DP John Picklap for this shot because there was just a lot of stuff going on at the bus, and John was like, I think we should interview the bus driver, and it just wasn't on top of things I needed to get, and it ended up being like one of my favorite interviews.
I've been going back to the hotel and just working my Sudoku books.
Have you seen any of the quilts?
No, I have not, other than on TV.
The quilt channel I had heard rumors about before I got there, and I hadn't made contact with them, but then I saw them filming one of the first days, and I was like, hey, can I do? And they were like, oh, yeah, definitely.
Hear me now. Stop pulling it, Linda.
Where is it?
One of my favorite things that happens is when somebody walks up and says, hey, I've been to the show for 20 years or 25 years or 28 years, and I've watched you every year. How many miles of thread do you think you've been through? Before we were on the internet, it was, oh, well, I was going to stay at this one motel, but they didn't have the quilt channel, so I left and went somewhere else. Oh, and happy quilting.
So Linda started it, or her husband started it, but her husband passed away. And I wanted to include that in the film because I feel like a lot of it is really light, but I think it shows to me the reasons beyond just quilting that people are doing this. It really is the connections they have within this community. It gave a little bit more reason to why they did what they did, besides just like the love of quilts, as they say.
Husband, unfortunately, Terry passed away in 2010, so part of what we do this is a love for the quilters and the quilts themselves, but also as a legacy to Terry.
You got all the mics in
10
there?
bags, yes, they're in there.
Oh, my favorite part of the
It
day.
seems in the film like I spent a while with them. I spent maybe like an hour and a half with them.
Don't leave me. We're a team, remember?
You're faster than me. You're older and faster.
Well, I still get excited by the quilts.
Welcome to 8US Quilt Week. Be sure to visit.
For me, the whole concept was to build the film on moments. It was almost like when we were filming it, I was thinking in terms of scenes. I was thinking in the larger picture, but just in the sense that I knew the larger picture was when the show began and ended. The few films I'd done before this, it was a lot more researched, so I just was curious, when you change the process, how does the film change?
These are rock stars here, you know, of quilting, and you've heard that term here a lot.
Quilting celebrity, there definitely can be called
We
that.
filmed for 4 days or 5 days, but those were full days. And it was just me and John Picklap, who's also my partner. And it was a lot of work, but you can't get it all. Yeah, we just had to make decisions. I mean, that's all film is, right? It's just making a series of decisions and then hoping you finish with something that you're happy with.
I think the idea of having competition has really made the quilt world even better than it can be.
It was hard to figure out how to fit in the actual quilt show in a way from like an editing standpoint, and specifically Anita, because Anita's story is the only one that really I wanted to show change, basically, in the fact that she wins at the end. It was like the Anita problem. A lot of time was spent trying to figure out how to make that scene work. And so what we decided was sort of, we have just like this convention scene and we introduce these two quilters, but you don't really understand the significance of the one. We were like hiding her so that her winning would mean much more to the audience. The awards are actually like the first night. So that interview that you actually see, that's right after she won.
If we start, rotate around here, everybody be patient and everybody will be able to see, okay?
It was pieced by my grandmother.
So a lot of the film was us getting just invited to things from other quilters that saw us. We pretty much within like 5 minutes had gotten invited to this quilt show and tell and like the Eleanor Burns show. And this was within like our first day of being there. So it was really like comforting because it was kind of the whole, like I said, concept of just field producing while we were there and have the experience be sort of the guiding motion of the film.
And one of my favorite things to do during Quilt Week is to come and talk with you.
Thank you.
I mean, I always learn something. I mean, you're one of my heroes when it comes to the business world of quilting.
Well, thank you.
Because you've been doing this now for
40 years.
Eleanor Burns.
Eleanor Burns.
Eleanor Burns. Eleanor Burns.
She is the queen of quilts and has been for decades.
I tell people I'm just a normal person.
I had loosely heard of Eleanor Burns before I got there, but only because when I was looking up different things on quilting, she kept coming up. But I didn't know that she was going to be there or anything. You know, what I was saying before about how you kind of go into this film like you're learning about something new, and it's a little funny because it's something that you just wouldn't expect. And then that switch sort of happens where you start to actually really care. And like Eleanor was the point where I was like ready to make that sort of switch with the audience.
Ladies and gentlemen, the queen of strip quilting, Eleanor Burns.
People call me a stripper. A strip is a piece of fabric. You start with a strip of fabric, then you just cut it up and turn it into something different.
She completed for me the story of who quilts, you know, that it isn't just this competition, which going into the film, I thought I was going to cover a lot more of the competition, you know, who's on top, you know, but it turned way more into a film that covered more than that. She was a single woman and she couldn't get a loan, but she basically built this quilting empire and it was just extremely inspiring. And she's just one of those people that's definitely like kill them with kindness, you know, and she's a star.
What I really am most proud of is when people come up and say they made their first quilt and it changed their life.
1, 2, 3. Got it.
Even the people that have commented on the film have been like, Eleanor Burns did save my life.
1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is going to be Jill.
Yep.
And then they were like, do you want to wait for the carriage? And we were like, what do you mean?
It's the same thing for everybody. We're just all sharing our love of quilting.
Yeah, when we seen her quilt, we made the hotel reservations. They were just like, you're gone.
I didn't think I had a chance to getting in, but everyone else thought I did, but I did not.
A lot of things with this film were just knowing that we had a beginning and an end because it was a show and a really great setting and characters, but we didn't have a plot. And so it was just figuring out how to make some sort of plot.
Making something out of nothing.
Leave something for my kids. When I'm gone, they'll still have a part of me.
At this point, we're really dialing into like the heart of quilting. And I heard a lot of these stories of just like the reasons why people quilt. And then also like people that have received quilts, how important that is to them. I think it's a pretty universal object.
Quilts help to change lives. Because people see in them some beauty or something about life.
My sister had Alzheimer's and she wasn't able to quilt anymore. So I did this for my sister.
My brother has passed away a few years ago with cancer, and my other brother just passed away in October. I just wanted to do a story about my family.
Next up is first entry in an AQS Paducah contest category. And the first place award, Boudinais Clan, Anita Huber, New Lebanon, Ohio.
She's just such a great person. And I felt almost like I was invading her privacy in this moment, or I felt like this might be, it's totally a little different than the rest of the film, but I really wanted people to think, how would it feel if you won if you were Anita? Like, how would that feel if you spent 5 years on a quilt, multiple family members had passed away, and then you won at the show to win at, you know? That's sort of what I was trying to build up.
My dreams have come true. Knowing that I can do it. I never knew it in myself. But now I got it.
It's a symbol of hope, someone's life, their love. It's much more than just a quilt.
And then it was important to end it a little bit on a lighter note. It just felt more true to complete the film that way.
I think it's a harmony, don't you, Bobby?
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, there's a harmony among quilters that the world could learn from.
So many great people worked on this film. I really got to give props to Nico Bobat, who edited this with me, Alan Roberts and Sam Simkoff, who composed the music. And then it was important to me to put all the quilts that were in it, like to give them a shout out too. And then, of course, John Picklap shot it and shot the whole thing without an easy rig because we didn't have money to rent an easy rig. But yeah, I think it's always about the team that you work with, right? So it was really cool to get to work with all those people.